Okay.
Hi, Mike Zipser with Fast Forward here, and we're doing something brand new for us with the playground. We are doing a Zoom discussion. Today we are to have three artists. Only one of them has made it in yet, and that is Iris Compiet, who is in the Netherlands. And in the interest of full disclosure, my wife and I own some of Iris's artwork, and it looks like Vanessa Lemen is just about to join us. So we'll let her get in. Give her a minute. I can see her name. By the way, welcome, Iris.
Thank you,
Uh,
Mike.
I'm not seeing Vanessa's mic. This is Kathy. Hi. I'm not seeing a microphone for Vanessa right now.
She says she's connecting to
Oh,
audio.
there we go. There we go.
And now she needs to unmute. Vanessa, if you could unmute yourself.
And turn on your video if you are willing to let us see you.
I'll get there.
All this new technology. So we're waiting for Vanessa. There she is.
There we go.
Hi. And Iris is over next to you. Just
Hey,
like
guys.
being at IllexCon.
Hey,
Iris
Vanessa.
is next to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we need
Yeah.
a stool. We need a stool somewhere.
we do.
We need a bar.
We need a bar. We need a stool. We need
That's
some
true.
wine.
Yeah.
The cafe table with the wine.
Yeah.
Nibble.
And I was saying that we own, my wife and I own art from all three of the artists who were joining us. We have
Oh,
some Iris's, we have one of Vanessa's, and when Ruth joins us, we have a number of Ruth's paintings. Welcome, Vanessa.
hi.
I was just introducing that this is a new thing for us with some new technology where we're just getting together on Zoom and talking to people. First, one of the first things I want to talk about
All right,
is,
but before we get started, Mike, I'm
Yeah.
going to tell everybody I'm going to go hide and go into lurker mode, and I will put Ruth in when she shows up.
okay,
So bye
that's
bye.
Kathy, by the way, our tech.
Bye, Kathy.
Let's start with talking about what's going on with the pandemic and how it's affecting things where you are. Iris, I particularly want to talk to you about that because being American, we don't know what the heck goes on in the rest of the world.
Well,
Our
I don't
news
think we
doesn't
know
cover.
what the heck's going on here either.
Yeah, right. So how are things in the Netherlands?
it's pretty okay actually. Well, pretty okay. We're on soft lockdown or intelligent lockdown, which basically means everything is still going on. The shops are open, but people are being asked to keep in mind that you have keep the right distance, shop alone, and people are really doing really good actually. The only downside, it's been wonderful weather in the Netherlands. It's like 22 degrees Celsius. So people are craving the sunshine and being outside, and basically you're not allowed to do that and have gatherings like that. So it's tough sometimes. It doesn't affect me as much because I'm basically like everybody, every artist. This is my normal. This is like, yeah, this is what I do every single day of my life. The entire year I sit in my studio and I don't go out much, only to conventions. So yeah, that's interesting, but I don't really notice any difference other than it's weird.
And
We're staying
you're
safe.
still healthy?
I am still healthy. Yeah, I'm keeping away from everything. I wash my hands when I go
Yeah.
outside. Yeah, the precautions. We don't have to wear masks when we go out, so there's nothing like that. And it seems to be pretty under control. Like restaurants are closed, everything's closed. There's a call for opening up because the economy is obviously hurting, but there's this soft line. What do you do? Is economy more important than people? And it's a rough thing. I'm
Yeah.
happy I don't have to make the decisions.
We're going through a similar thing here, but where I am, we're on a pretty strict lockdown, and you're supposed to wear masks. And yeah, because you're in California, right, Vanessa?
Yeah, what she was mentioning about the timing of it, I think what also might have helped us is that at least most of Southern California, it was raining so much during the time that we were all starting to be told to stay inside and stuff. We are already kind of doing that. This place, it was kind of a spring break time, so this was really a huge place to visit during spring break, and people are going to be going to the beaches, and as we saw all that, but I think people were kind of staying away from that because of the weather. Now it's really beautiful. So, but we're, inside, and most people are, I think, doing pretty well with it here.
Yeah. Let me ask you, has it affected you much? Because like Iris was saying, you're an artist and you're pretty much usually just hanging in your studio working all the time.
Yeah,
So
that part of it is the same, but obviously the situation and all the things we see online and the news and everything changes it, because it gets to another place. It's not just about the place that we make our work, but also the place in our minds, and that part of it. When I do see artists go, this is not that you were doing this, Iris, but a lot of people will post that, and there's a lot of things like you have to consider, with everyone else, that not to mention just the people that are having a hard time with staying indoors, but also that there are people dying from this. And so it's hard to get online. That's the big thing, is that people are trying to be supportive. And I think so much about everything that I'm doing as far as the interacting online is a weird thing, because you don't want to be all upbeat and make it seem like you don't care. But then you don't want to be, obviously a downer. And so it's an interesting, I find just totally not being there much has been helpful for me. So
yeah, it's definitely an interesting, difficult time to navigate, because like Vanessa, I too struggle with it's affecting me mentally, as in I'm scared. I do have a heart condition. I am a risk factor, like I'm in a risk category. I'm not ready to die yet, and I see a lot of people that do get it, young people, older people, and it's just, no matter how old you are, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
And there's so many information coming at you on social media every single day. You turn on your television. I start my day at 7 o'clock in the morning. Turn on the television to watch the news. First thing you see is a certain president talking about certain things, and you're like,
I know, because if he shows up, I change the channel right away.
Yeah. Well, I do feel I need to know certain things, but I need to keep it limited, because it is invading my mindset for creation.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have some client work, which is basically, I know what I have to do to create this and to do the work I'm asked to do. But when it comes to working on my Fairies of the Fault Lines artwork, which is so deeply in my soul or in my heart of who I am as an artist, and I think Vanessa understands what I'm saying here, is it's so personal, and then the reality is just invading that space, and it's just creating this really difficult terrain to navigate inside me. Like I'm how do I compartmentalize? How do you call that?
Compartmentalize.
Yes. Sorry for my botched up language. And it's difficult. You have to have ways to cope with it. So I limit my social media engagement. I personally, a lot of people I see doing live streams, and they're constantly creating, and I can't do it. I can't. I'm just, I have only as much energy to spare.
Yeah.
And I think it's as much as I can.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that we have as far as there's a presence online, there are things that we have. We have sketchbooks, we have paintings that are in our studio. So there's some things that, in order to stay with everything going on, and because we have to post on social media, it's a part of our job really now. That I just want to let people know that sometimes we post things that we done in our sketchbook like months ago.
Yeah.
It may look like we're super productive because we're posting something frequently. I just posted actually a week's worth of other people's work. And that was nice. That was fun to do and share everyone else's work. So there's ways to be there and post something positive, and but then just to let people know that we're also having that issue of getting into that space and creating. So some of the things, if I like Iris, I could say you always look very, very productive, on social media. So,
Yeah,
but I
but
know
it's like
you and I
saying-
talk, so
Yeah.
I know that what you're going through, and
Yeah.
you know what I'm going through. Yeah.
It's
So
like
just
saying
let other people know.
you there's Throwback Thursday. Well, in my case, it's Throwback Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've got
Exactly.
stacks of sketchbooks, and I'm not everybody has seen what's like. I haven't
Right.
shared everything, so
Right.
why not share that? And sure, I'm honest about that it's done months ago, a year ago,
Mhm.
and I'm also honest about the fact that I sometimes can't deal with being online at the moment,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, you are.
normal.
It's an interesting thing that's happened with social media is that artists, well, creatives of any kind have had to become their own marketing department because you've got to be on social media. You've got to keep a presence out there. It's become part of what you have to do as part of your business.
Yeah.
And that's for people like artists and writers who are kind of solitary. That I imagine must be difficult.
For others, you mean, that are normally not solitary?
Yeah, well, artists tend to be solitary people. So for having to keep that media presence and must be difficult for you.
I don't know that it is now, but it used to be in the beginning of doing it. Yeah, for me.
It's a learning curve, I think.
Yeah.
Like anything else, it's just something you have to learn. It's like negotiating contracts or whatever. You have to learn that by doing it. And nowadays there's tons of courses you can follow, and even more so now where all that content is being is available online. Everybody's doing courses. So you can learn how to market yourself, but there's a thin line between marketing and still being yourself, which is, I think, very important as an artist, that it's not all about selling and buy my stuff. It's about connection, like a real connection in an online environment, which is, I think, more important than, hey, I did this, buy it. Like, I've got prints, I've got this.
Yeah, and you two, both of you, your work is intensely personal. It's one of the things I like about both of your stuff is it's yours. It's not going to be mistaken for anybody else's. And
well, that's not entirely right, though. I get the mention, like everybody's, oh, it's very much like Brian Froud, and I'm like, there he is again. Like Brian.
I never thought that.
People, it's fairies. As soon as they see fairies, it's like, oh, it's Brian Froud. It makes me laugh every time. It makes Brian laugh.
And Vanessa's stuff is the way her stuff has it's like chaotic at the edges and then kind of coalesces into these beautiful faces. And I love that.
Thank you.
So let me ask you something else. Let's talk about when this is all over eventually, hopefully, at some point. Do you think that going through all this is going to affect what art is created? Having gone through the isolation and the pandemic and things like that, do you think are we going to see like isolation art and things like that coming out of artists, or do we have to wait and see what you guys do in your brains?
Well, I definitely think it's going to be influencing it. It already is, but it might not be so literal, as far as the imagery goes. I know that things, because my work is personal, the things that I do speak about tend to be about reaching out, and that community and connection are very important. And even though there might be a single character, sometimes actually single character with several hands and several heads, but that it's actually representing multiple people, or us as a unit, as humans, humanity. So I just feel like this is going to be adding to that dialogue I'm already having. And, that's because I think it's, like I said, personal work. So I don't think that there's any, even if I feel like I'm not doing that, I still am. So,
Mm-hmm. So Iris and I were talking about that before you got on, Vanessa, but she's been very busy lately. A lot of commissions, a lot of stuff to do. How have you been doing?
I do have some commissions. I have some work I can't talk about right now that's NDA, but will be coming out at the end of this year. Mm-hmm. And personal work too. So the personal work is a lot of right now experimenting, and not necessarily. I'm feeling like some of the backgrounds or the abstracts that I make recently have been turning into landscapes that are very wide open, and I feel like that's where they're going to go. I don't know that I'll put faces or figures in there. I've been already working on some like for a year or so, and have them in the studio around me. But now I'm feeling like this is what they are. There's no need to put something else in there. So yeah, just maybe that to bring them to life a little more, or to realize some areas, but not to have to put something in there because I felt like that's what I'm supposed to do. So I've had time to kind of think and let it live around me, and I'm realizing that's where it's going, I think. Yeah.
Also, when this finally ends, do you think there's could be any changes to how you guys sell your work, how you get your work out to people? Do you think the conventions are going to come back after this?
I think there's definitely going to be changes. So there's no telling when conventions, if conventions happen again, because basically as long as there's no vaccine, it's pretty much unsafe to get together with 60,000 people. It's always a risk. We all get conquered. That's the thing already. Now we can get this as well. So I don't know if next year will be a convention year. We'll see. One thing that I've learned from this, or am learning from this, is to, look at the nearer to me than the distance. Like I'm not looking at what's happening in September. I'm looking at what's happening in May. What can I do in May? And that's keeping me personally healthy. And it's there's no saying what will happen. I've been experiencing some online conventions, which are really fun. The joy of convention is actually having that personal connection with people, either with your friends, your artist friends, and customers, or people that are started out as a customer or collector and ended up being a friend. And it's always a joy to meet them every single year. That's certainly something I'm going to miss this year, because I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. But yeah, I do believe there's changes coming, but I also believe that artists are creative in all aspects of their field, be it marketing, be it, you know, art wise, but also in how we deal with this, how we bring our art to the people in whatever way that is. So I'm, you know, let's be positive and be excited about what's going on. And you asked a question a while ago about how it influences your art. Yes, it does influence our art, obviously, like everything. In my personal, I'd rather focus on the positive and want to spread a hopeful message than focus on the loneliness and the isolation, because people are feeling that already so much. And there's people that are
connection.
They have a really, really bad time getting through this, not just because they're scared, but also because they're alone. And I think as artists, we have an opportunity to give those people an extra boost of hopefulness. So yeah,
one of the functions of art.
Yeah, definitely.
I think for me, on a personal level, and I bet when I say this that it would, you know, be the same for a lot of people, but it's how I think what my work is going to be doing, or what I see it doing already. It has been, and I'm just going to explore it more, but exploring that, what it means to be hopeful, that it's not always, that word doesn't mean always positive. That word means lots of hard work and adversity. And when you go to make an image based on hope, it involves all of those emotions, not just the positive ones. So I know that in some of my work that people will look at it and say, oh, it's sad. And other people will be like, it's so uplifting and the same image from the same image. And so that's really what I'm talking about, is that if it comes from you and it has all of those aspects to it, you know, that's just it being raw and coming from you. That's don't hold it back, I guess, is what I'm saying. But I always already do that, and I want to do it more, explore what that means, like just let it be that, and not force what I think is supposed to be there, or you know, some kind of imagery that people like to see, but just let it come out and see what that is.
Yeah, definitely. That's basically what I feel I've been doing as well. It's just, will my art change? I don't know. It always changes, you know, every single year. Will coronavirus have an effect on it? I don't know. It may not. We'll see what happens, you know. There's just a flow to it, and whichever happens. Right. And I'm just, you know, pushing and tugging and trying and experimenting, and like Vanessa says, it's what people see in it, what people feel in it.
Yeah, I mean, everything that an artist lives through affects what the artist does. I mean, it's all food for that art.
Right, it is. Yep.
You and your husband have been teaching some, Vanessa, correct?
Some. Just for a few decades, or a couple decades.
Just for a couple decades, and I assume because some of that was online teaching, right? So that'll be able to,
in the more recent years, yes.
Yeah, so and that's going to be able to keep going.
Yeah.
And you've also been writing columns for Muddy Colors.
Yes.
Which I assume will keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
So it looks like you guys are going to be keeping busy for a while.
We do keep busy. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not slowed down for us as well, you know, just as far as what work or commissions or any of that, you know. But and the other thing that people say is, oh, that's great, now you have more, you know, personal time to do your personal work, which again, then people, you have to remind people, well, actually, since this was the way that we were already working before, it's not necessarily that that's changed much. And time, the amount of time we have to do stuff is still the same, so there is that. And then going back to the very beginning of this conversation, we talked about how it's affecting us in that mental state. And I've found that I need a balance of walking, meditating, and painting or working too, a lot more. The ratio maybe is more on the other side right now than my art, though. We're working all day and we love it. It's not like we're complaining about working. So
It's not like you're doing a job you hate.
no, it's not. So sometimes there's days that are, work that we're doing more tedious, or the timeline is so short and it's stressful, or that kind of thing. But no, I mean, there's that. It's pretty great, that part of it, and it's a world that we can go in, but that's the issue, is that mentally it's hard to get into that world right now.
Yeah. Well, it's been basically half an hour. We can keep talking if you want, but that's kind of the timeline we were thinking of for this. Is there anything else you guys would like to bring up or talk about?
It's good to see each other.
Yeah. I know.
I told Mike I want to hug everybody, but
yeah,
it's difficult now.
Yeah.
Even though this is safe.
Because I know you guys sometimes, I know Vanessa, you do some collaborations with other artists sometimes, because I remember seeing the stuff you do with Rick Barry.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't do that now.
Well,
could you, if it's a digital painting, could you do that?
Well, we've even done, when Rick and I had a show a long time ago together, we did some collaborations and some separate ones. And some of the collaborations we had done, like I visited Boston and hung out and painted there, so he could work on those after I already started them. And that's kind of how we had to work it. But some of them we did try to ship to each other and work on it. It's really not the same. I don't know. Yeah. But it is. I mean, you are working with that person's, marks and trying to find something in it. It might have been different, but it is really, collaboration for me is about the experience, the together, the connection, where you do see that person start to put something into your image and you go, oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't maybe have made that, choice, and then you roll with it. It's a lot of finding out what you're like, and not only, working with another person and seeing what they do, but also how you are working with it. So that part of it is so great. And it's like an adrenaline rush. So yeah, it's not the same to ship it.
Iris, have you done much collaboration with other artists?
No.
I didn't think so. So. Now I remember last DeluxeCon had brought some sculptures, I believe, that you'd started on. How's that going?
Very exciting. Actually, in 2.5 weeks, there's going to be some builders who are going to build me a sculpture shed in my garden, which is going to be an entire studio dedicated for sculpture, which is currently I'm doing my resin casts and silicone molds in my kitchen, which is obviously not the best place to do this when you have food and cats and stuff.
You don't want to get it confused.
It's kind of dangerous. So I'm really excited to have that being built just in a couple of weeks. And that means I have another studio that's fully dedicated to sculpture. And I've got so many plans. And, no convention, sadly, but it does give me time. Well, it doesn't give me time, but it gives me, I want to come out of this with things that have been in my mind forever, and I've always been telling them, like, okay, well, it'll have to wait. I don't have time yet. I'm hoping that I can focus on that as well. So yeah, there's a couple of things I'm definitely working on. Like I can't spoil too much, but
Yeah, that's how I was. I'm sorry. We're both like, yeah, we are, but
there's gonna like there's definitely some exciting things. It's sad that the virus hit just as I was going to a foundry with some of my sculptures to get some bronzes cast. So, but you know, that'll happen whenever this is over with, and in the meantime I can learn more about the process and, you know, catch up and be more knowledgeable of that whole process. But yeah, I have it's my goal every single year for IlluxCon to bring something that I've never shown before. Like the high thing, like I want to show people. Like a couple of years it was I sculpted my own frames because I see a lot of wonderful, beautiful and ornate frames in America, which are pretty cheap actually. And when I want to buy that in the Netherlands, I pay $400-500 for just a frame. That's not going to work. I can't sell my art with that frame.
You don't want to know what we pay for some of the frames we've gotten done.
Oh
we have
yeah,
a framer
I can imagine,
who's amazing and gets us like hand-stitched leather frames and things like that.
There's this shop in Ghent in Belgium that sells Italian handmade frames, and I go there and I drool over them. And like, have you ever gotten one discounted because it's dinged up and I can save it, please? You know, I just but years ago I made my own frames just by sculpting them, and yeah, I can do that now more than ever. So yes, big plans.
Cool.
And with the other artists, my Fairies book is going to be reprinted by a publisher. It's sold to a publisher, so it's going to be hopefully in stores everywhere around the world. Fingers crossed.
We can mail order it.
But I'm also, you know, I have more stories, so let's go for another book. And I'm gonna start work on an Oracle deck. So I have plans.
And Vanessa, I'm sure you have plans too for the future, because you were saying you're doing more landscapes and.
I don't even know if I'd call them landscapes. I'm not really sure. I guess I just see them. I see sometimes people post something or if just, you know, you see on Nat Geo or something, you know, these incredible scapes of space or like a super, you know, microscopic image of something. And I see them more like that kind of thing. So I don't even know, you know, what the word is that I would use. They're abstract, you know, but yeah.
Lemenesque.
Yeah, but I do want to explore that more, yes. I still have the figure work, definitely, because I see that in everything. And I think that's partly why I want to explore this other thing, because it's a little bit of a challenge for me, even though they are just coming out of me. And I say that just like that's nothing, but I don't mean it that way. But those are coming out. And so I guess I want to dig deeper into that instead of it just be, let's change that now into a figure or something. So I still will do the figure stuff, but I do want to, you know, dig deep into that other thing too, that world.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see them.
Yeah, me too.
Well, guys, I want to thank you both for showing up. I'm sorry Ruth didn't make it. I would have loved to have seen her, but we'll get her back on another time. And I want to let everyone out there know that we're going to be posting links to their sites, to Iris's and Vanessa's websites, so you can see their work and buy their work and see what's going on with them. Their websites are wonderful, by the way.
Definitely more active on Instagram than my website.
And we'll link to your Instagram and your Twitter and all of your things.
Yeah.
All of that stuff that the kids do.
Yeah. Cool.
And I want to thank you both so much for taking time. I know you guys are busy, and I appreciate the time to talk with us and each other about what's going on in art.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Mike.
Thank you very much. And so this is Mike Zipser from Fast Forward saying, stay safe, stay at home. Thank you. I think that's it.
Cool.
Yay.